Hey guys, today we're looking at the new patch that's dropping in about a week. This one is slated as the mid-season jungle update. Let's see what you'll think of this brand new rune Nimbus cloak as well. Make sure you let me know down in the comments. It seems kind of cool really, maybe it'll just flat out suck, who knows. But the first change we're going to look at is Mundo. So the cost of his ultimate is going to go up from 20 to 25%, and also the cooldown has been increased by 10 to 20 seconds. Didn't take very long for Mundo to get nerfed. Like literally one patch. They aren't taking anything off of the healing amount either. You just won't be able to use it quite as often, and you've got to pay a bigger price as well to get it going in the first place. In my very humble opinion, that is not going to be stopping the Cleaver train from kicking you in the nuts like he has done all patch basically, so he will still be really good in 8.10. Okay, so let's move into runes then. Nimbus cloak to start with. Honestly, I can only think of Harry Potter when I read this, but I don't know about you guys, that's going to be a bit of a kicker in game. So it replaces ultimate hat basically. The rune is gone. Shortly after casting your ultimate now, you gain 100 move speed, which decays over 2 seconds, and it has a 25-second cooldown. It works a lot how like Storm Raiders used to, if you remember that from last season, the burst of move speed, except obviously this is triggered by pressing R rather than doing any damage. I actually think this could be really good on a lot of different champions. It's the same row as Nullifying Orb or Mana Flow Band, and if you don't need mana, then this is really good. You can use this on mages, assassins, supports, AD carries. Honestly, you could pretty much use it on anybody. Like they will all take that bonus chunk in move speed. You won't be getting a ton of use out of this as a secondary tree because most people are going to take Celerity or Transcendence and bottom row for the deeps, but much better when you take sorcery as your primary for sure. Speaking of that, actually, Phase Rush, the keystone in this sorcery tree, is getting a buff as well, so it'll be 25 to 40% move speed from 15 to 40. Even though it only seems like an extra 10 to start the game, at level 1 you already have the same move speed boost that you would have had at level 8 before, so it scales much faster. It's basically much better early game, and it will eventually even back out. This keystone isn't amazing. Not many people take it unless they have a really good synergy, so for those champions it might actually be really good. Some other really big ones that especially top laners are going to be loving in this patch are the resolve tree. So bone plating, the damage blocks has been lowered from 20 to 50 to 15 to 40. This starts off worse, and it doesn't scale into the game as well anymore either. This has been a bit of a problem, to say it very nicely, since it was released honestly, so it's finally getting a nerf. It's actually even better though because it's paired with this next one as well, Chrysalis, that new rune that we got a little while ago. The extra health has been lowered to 50 from 60. Most people will be running these two runs together as a secondary, and it made it so hard to trade in lane, but both are going to be getting nerfs in the same patch. Less health plus less damage blocked is going to help a lot more when you put them together actually, so we might just maybe get away from every single top laner in the game taking these at the same time. We do also have some other buffs though, so like Demolish, the damage to structures has been increased to 175 from 125. This is in addition, by the way, to that 30% of your maximum health as well, so whenever you smack a tower you'll be doing 50 more damage from it. It's not like that much when you think about it, 50 extra, but it will definitely make it better and more viable to take because it is in the same row as bone plating as well. If we move into Domination now though, Cheap Shot, the true damage has been increased on that, and it's the reverse of the bone plating nerf. It starts off better and it scales better now as well through the entire game. It's such a hard rune to use properly though, and right now even if you do use it properly, it just doesn't do enough damage with that 4-second cooldown. I would still expect really most people to take the healing from Taste of Blood or Sudden Impact. Like those two are just so good. Another one a few rows down, Ingenious Hunter, the base cooldown reduction has been increased by 5%, but that is because the cooldown reduction per stack has been lowered. It ends up being exactly the same overall when you have it fully stacked, but you start the game with more cooldown reduction now. It's just a very small buff to make it a bit more attractive versus the other two in there, which are both like really good. The Relentless Hunter and also the healing as well, the Ravenous, both of those are top tier, and this one just falls a little bit behind. Last up, we're moving into Inspiration. So pretty much every tree apart from Precision has been getting a change. First one is Perfect Timing. So the stopwatch, the transform time has been lowered to 8 minutes from 10. So now everybody and their grandmother has stopped taking this rune. They're going to lower it down a bit and buff it. Hardly anybody takes this anymore at all, and this is still worse than it used to be, so we aren't going to be going back to stopwatch meta, thankfully. I think it's more of a thing like if you have a reason to take it, so like a Morgana or a Fiddlesticks or some synergy really, it might actually be worth grabbing again. You have to remember though, you cannot get free boots with it, and saving yourself a whole kill's worth of gold is such good value, so that's why we normally take that one. Last one is a rework to Minion Dematerializer. This is coming on and off the PB, so it might be there, might not. not. The rework version starts the game with 5, not 6 of these, and gives you a new permanent bonus when you use it on a minion. So melee minions actually give you 1 armor and 2 move speed. Casters would give you 1 magic resist and a 1.2 AD or 2 AP. Siege minions would give you 8 health and 2% bonus damage to structures and epic monsters. It's kind of the same idea, but just a lot different. Now, the maximum stuff you get, by the way, would be 5 armor and 10 move speed, 5 magic resist and 10 AP, 6 AD, and then 40 health plus 10% bonus to damage to towers or epic monsters, or you could obviously mix them up. It's not going to be game breaking even if it happens, that's for sure. Probably worth taking over futures and biscuits though, so it actually could be used a lot more. Now let's get into the mid-season jungle update. The first thing that we're going to look at is Spell Thief's Ancient Coin and Relic Shield are now exclusive with the jungle item, so you cannot buy both. People don't really do this as much anymore, getting support items on laners or junglers, but just in case there are a few like fringe cases still doing it, you won't be able to. The biggest change here really that's coming off and on again is jungle camps respawn timers have been changed to 2:15 from 2:30, so a little bit quicker respawn, and golden experience has been lowered per camp. This is the biggest jungle change, and it's not really that obvious in the notes at all. The experience on the camps is reduced and it will gradually increase over game time. So as an example, if you went red, wolves, and blue, you would not get to level 3 anymore. You would need an extra camp worth of experience to get it and be able to gank with all 3 spells. Obviously, that is a massive thing for a lot of junglers like Lee Sin who want to gank as early as possible, and they're not going to be able to do that anymore. If this change goes through, then the entire game is going to slow down a little bit. Your lane will be more about you and your lane opponent and less about the jungler. I think most laners would agree that that is a good thing for them, but for a lot of gank heavy junglers, that does really suck. The other big thing is that Rift Scuttler is getting a rework as well. There will be crabs on both sides of the river like normal to start the game. Once both are dead though, only one of them will respawn at a time at random. It now does have a timer icon as well on the map to show you where and when the next one is spawning, so that is going to help. But the experience has been changed, so it's actually a lot more now, and also the gold has been changed in the same way. They really want people to fight over more objectives basically, and have decided that Scuttle Crab is going to be another one, literally just like Dragon or Baron. With more experience and more gold and only one of them spawning, they want to move it into something that you're actually going to fight for. You know how when like Kindred marks an enemy camp or whatever, like she has a mark on there, people fight for it. It's a lot like that. That is what they want. So we have a Runic Echoes kind of rework. It's not really though. It's not exactly what I expected when they said big Runic Echo buffs. You got some extra cooldown reduction and mana, which is nice, and the active is a little bit better, but that is it. Those are definitely better stats to have. When we lose some move speed, that is fine. So overall, 100% it is a buff for a lot of different champions, but I'm not sure that is enough for AP champions to flood the jungle again. Thinking about it, it actually might even be a slight nerf for champions like Elise, Nidalee, and Diana, who would have loved that move speed. Starting items for junglers have been changed as well. You would be surprised how much of a difference attack speed makes for junglers, so that might hurt more than we expect for the machete version. There is a bit more health drain though on Talisman, and mana regen is still there as long as you're in the jungle or the river, so we do have that part. I think the idea behind this is again to make junglers a little weaker on their first clear and a little bit slower. The last thing that's kind of jungle related is that your warding Totem Trinket, I know you can get this in pretty much every other lane and you will be using it. The ward duration has been increased, and by a fair amount actually. Having more vision means more plays, or countering more plays at least as well. It is the idea that if you place a good ward and get vision, then it should last for a little bit longer and you should be rewarded for getting that good ward spot. Remember as well, we can get a sweeper straight away now in the game, so we have ways to play around that. We can deny the vision, so it's not the end of the world. Moving on to some stuff about champions, there's one I really want to talk about that is again off and on the PvE, which is a rework to Kha'Zix's ultimate. Well, the ultimate itself is the same, the evolution is different, so when you upgrade it, it would halve your ultimate cooldown, it would double your stealth duration per cast, but they got rid of that stupid part that gave him perma-stealth and move speed in bushes. This is, I think, exactly what people wanted, or very close to it, because it was the most annoying part about Kha'Zix. He still has a very long stealth, so don't get me wrong, he can use it quite often as well, like especially if he gets some cooldown reduction, but he cannot run through the jungle so freely. This should mean that we don't have to permaban him anymore as well, which I'm definitely looking forward to. He can still do what he wants to do as Kha'Zix, but he has to be a bit more careful and do it deliberately. He will be easier to catch, he'll be easier to shut down, and at least if he wants to stealth and use it, he has to use an actual cooldown to do it. Another thing is Zac is getting some AP buffs as well. Well, they're actually changing his W so it doesn't do as much, putting the damage into his E and his ultimate instead, giving AP Zac even more love as well, which is weird, saying like, okay, we know tank meta is kind of over because we're buffing assassins, so let's just give this tank jungler even more damage, make him build damage, and make him good that way. AP Zac, by the way, is no joke. He dies very fast, but maybe if he can land his E and burst even harder with his ultimate, that is not going to matter at all. I'll be surprised if we don't see some AP Zacs just running around with like a Runic Echoes when it's been buffed as well, and also maybe a Shirelia's or something like that for a bit of fun. Sion is a bit weird. Maybe you're the same as me, but his health regen has been lowered. His EAP ratio increased, base damage down a little bit, but the armor reduction on this only applies to pass-through targets now, but it lasts 4 seconds instead of 2.5 though. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did not even realize his E had an armor shred on there. That's pretty bad, but maybe you guys are the same. It's kind of a rebalance really, but in theory, it might even be better actually. You've got to send a minion or whatever flying into somebody, which is a bit harder for it to proc and stuff, but when it does, it will be stronger. The only item update that's like not part of AD carries or jungle or whatever is going to be to Gargoyle Stoneplate. The cooldown has been lowered by 2 seconds. This is the biggest change of the entire patch, right? That's why I left it until the end. I'm not even sure why they are doing this or who thought it was something that needed changing, but there you go. That's going to be lowered. Now anyway, that will catch you up to speed with the new patch. I hope you enjoyed the video and having a look at it, but for now, I will leave you with the robots.